Okay, so I'm doing another video. There's a TV on in another room, so you may hear the TV. You may also hear them. I did a video with no audio, no television on, so that you guys can see the difference between when they're talking in the background and the television's on and the television picks up and you can hear them because the television must have some sort of radio signal, but it also has a master antenna versus when there's no television on and you can still hear them. So it's never quiet. There's always a hum. And they insisted before that I get it directly in my head, like my head has some implant or chip. It doesn't. Okay. I don't have a computer chip in my head, and I feel stupid even saying that. But just so if you're going through this, you can record it. You don't have a computer chip in your brain. You know, they tried to say that when I had to go for a colonoscopy, that they put it up my rectum. That didn't happen. I mean, that's how ridiculous this has been. But let me tell you another part of what I said earlier. So they don't have the exact years when these things happen, because the elementary schoolmate wrote down some of the things I told her, but she didn't get it right, or she didn't have the right year. But that proves that they also weren't videotaping, because I've been saying, if you've been videotaping and recording, put it up publicly, and then you would have the time and the date, and we wouldn't have to play the memory game. This is what this seems to be, like a memory game, like we're going through memories, which goes back to the research letter for Alzheimer's. Again, how obvious can they be? But if you have a book and you publish it, leave a comment below with the link and I'd be happy to promote it. I'll be happy to promote your book of my life, which you seem to, that's the creepiest thing I've ever heard of. I don't keep a book of other people's lives. So that just goes to show you who these people are. If you have a book of my life and things I've said to you, then you're creepy. So that's that. The next part is that they insist that they thought I was dating men who were taken. No, I don't date men who are taken. The other thing about that, and now we'll go to 2013, 2014. A guy named Marty was trying to date me on the job. I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in dating anyone at that point. And there was a young man there who was much younger than me, and I don't like younger guys. I just don't. You know, I'll tell you this story, then I'll jump to a story from 2009 to give you an example. I'm not attracted to younger guys. I mean, maybe years from now I will be when I'm old, but I'm 49 and I don't date younger guys. I just don't. So I worked at a job. I started a job. There was a guy named Marty who was interested. I didn't like him. I didn't find him attractive. His personality didn't. I didn't find his personality attractive. I just wasn't attracted to him. And he continued to keep lurking around me. He's the one that had his cell phone near the back of my neck. And at the time, they used to have this annoying little cell phone noise. And he would buzz it near my ear. And at the time, I wasn't aware of this technology. I wasn't aware of any of this. So I was just like, why is he always over me? Like, he was always there. And so once he realized that I wasn't interested, he became like more, I don't know whether I can say it was aggressive, but nasty. You know what I mean? Like, you don't like me, so I'm going to make you miserable. But there was a young man there who was from either Pakistan or Bangladesh. I think it was Bangladesh, and he lived in Parkchester. And so we struck up a conversation since I was familiar with Parkchester, and it turns out that he was Muslim. So I showed you guys on Twitter these little books that I got when I worked on the Hajj, because I got these books and I wanted to make a point of giving it to people who I thought it would have significance for them. And I only have one of each book left, and I think I might just keep those books. But I had more than one. You know, it was a thing of sometimes they were going to throw it out when we were on the Hajj. Sometimes people gave it to me. And I just wanted to make sure that if I met somebody, I'd give it to them. So I gave it to him. and we kind of became friendly. Somehow, some way, people misinterpreted that as me being attracted to him. It was not an attraction, was we just were talking. We connected in that level, on that level. And so towards the end, he, became a little standoffish. He had a relationship. And I think what could have happened was people like Marty probably put it in his head that this would seem inappropriate. That was fine. I was sad because he was a nice person and this was a new job for me. But he ended up leaving. That was it. There was no sexual thing. We didn't talk to each other outside of work. It was nothing like that. And that's my point. I think what happened is when these people were trying to find out these stories, they made a big deal about little deals and made a small deal about big deals to kind of, again, that's a very manipulative tactic. This is to me, this is a psychological operation, a psyop, where it's similar to when somebody intentionally distorts things so that you get paranoid. And I think by putting this up publicly, I'm giving anybody a chance to leave a comment. They've left comments like, I will be hunted. They're going to make my life miserable. I'm a mental patient, or I'm mentally ill. I should see a psychiatrist. And that's why I'm doing it publicly, because everybody can leave a comment. I'm not afraid of that. I'm more afraid that this was designed to distort my memory, to physically and mentally harm me, which happened. And that's the difference. They said, well, how could you say you're not afraid? No, I'm not afraid of the public perception. I'm physically afraid of what happened to me physically, mentally afraid that these people did try to harm my memory, and afraid of the death threats and their threats against me. That's different. And I think anybody with, again, common sense can distinguish between somebody who is afraid of comments or afraid of how people will feel about a situation versus their own safety and the safety of especially my mother. Okay, so now that you've heard that, we'll go to 2009. And in 2009, I was in school, and there was a younger classmate who wasn't much younger. So I could have been maybe 34, 35, and he was in his late 20s. So he wasn't college age. He was in his late 20s. And he liked me. Again, this is my whole point with this situation. I'm not really attracted to younger guys, even a few years younger. That's not my thing. I like guys my age. We can share things in common, or a little bit older, because again, I'm looking for a connection. I used to tell people this. I believe in physical, mental, and emotional connections. It's not just physical. It's not just an emotional connection, but it has to be mental. It has to be someone that I can sit down, have a conversation with, be myself, talk about whatever crap comes to the top of my head. And that's what they didn't want, because if I'm just talking off the top of my head, it's hard to develop AI, artificial intelligence, because it might not be what I really feel. It might just be what I'm thinking at that moment, how I feel based on whatever information I'm getting. And I always say, I process my information as it happens. So it's hard to create artificial intelligence software off of my personality if my personality may not be based on my true feelings. Do you understand what I mean? So it might not be like, I might not really feel that. I might just at the moment just say something. And that's how it is when you're an actual person. And that's part of why this thing didn't work. It's not a true personality assessment of me. It's based on I'm home, kicking back, relaxing, talking to my mom, scrolling the internet. And by the time I realized that they were doing this, I'm not going to let them create AI technology off my personality. That's ridiculous. Why would I? I'm on welfare. I mean, you know, we're dealing with people who are trying to be manipulative and take advantage. So going back to the story in 2009, so the classmate, he again used to sit behind me and kind of, you know, flirt with me, and we would walk out of class together. And, you know, I had to kind of wait. By the time I started, you know, talking to him and just getting to know him on like a friendly basis, he would ask me, like, I have proof that he even asked me to hang out. I didn't go. Um, and he knew that I kind of had a thing against dating someone younger because I told him. And he kind of introduced me to a few people, his classmates. Again, since he was older, I don't know if they were older or they were college age, but like I said, if I was like 34, he could have been like 27-ish, 28. He wasn't college age. So what ended up happening is later on, as the time wore on, we would kind of correspond. And one time he was just really mean to me, and I didn't understand. Like I said, that's part of why I don't like younger guys, because I really don't get them. To be honest, I don't get them. They're, you know, I'm like this at this age, sort of even tempered. They're not. And again, it's different. So that's part of what I'm telling you folks. I'm telling you folks that as I got older and had more experience, I used that experience in my writing. And it goes back to this whole situation where if I'm at this age, 49, dealing with this, and my mom even said the same thing. She can only imagine what someone much younger than me is going through. It's hard on me. It's hard on my mother, and she's not 49. Can you imagine what a younger person is dealing with? So the more I do these videos, the easier it is for me to put it together that these people wanted to take advantage. They weren't able to do this when I was younger. The thing about this at this age, it's harder for them because there's so many years for them to have to kind of put together. But to try to, and I said this out loud to them, which is funny. When this first started, I thought it was just on my iPhone. So I started to kind of hear them talking, and I use my iPhone like this, talking. And they're like, well, you talked to us. Yeah, I did, because I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I couldn't really prove it. How do you prove your iPhone is talking to you when your iPhone is off? So I used to shut my iPhone off. And by the time I got rid of my iPhone, because I was like, it's the iPhone, it wasn't the iPhone. Then it's like the apartment. So how do you prove that? You know, I think that was another thing that thankfully helped me, because before I could prove this, had I just said, like, my iPhone's talking to me, people would have been like, you know. But now that it's happening to other people and they realize these things are possible, I'm not getting that same response. But just going back to that is that when this started to happen to me, and I thought my phone was like, something's wrong with my phone, it made sense to me that it would be the phone. It didn't make sense that it's the apartment. And the more they try to create the same sounds outside of the apartment, the more it's obvious that it's in the apartment. They're not able to create it outside the apartment, which I don't understand. It's in the buildings around. So it's not only the apartment, but even in the buildings around. And I did a video. I kept trying to find it, but I did over 800 and something videos. I'm going to keep doing these videos. But it's in the buildings around, but it sounds different outside. So not just in the buildings around, but in the apartment is a completely different sound. And as much as I'm trying to figure out exactly how they do it so I can tell you folks, I think I benefit from being older. And just going back to what I've been saying, you see the common theme of this is that the memories they're going over would have been like the 1990s, the 2000s. You know, it's harder for them because they can't even piece it together. And that ruins their plan of making it sound like this was always happening to me. It couldn't have been. But it also means that the type of people I interact with on a regular basis are far older than they are and far more mature with more life experience. So the idea that I'm suddenly like dealing with mental problems in my late 40s, the onset of those type of mental problems usually occur much younger. So it worked to my advantage. So I can only imagine someone so much younger when maybe these types of issues would develop, would go through. So when I'm getting like crazy comments like, you need to see a psychiatrist, a 40-something-year-old woman normally wouldn't need to. And that's my point with this situation, that had this have happened to me at a younger age, it would have been a horrible situation. I probably would have been dealing with younger men would have been my age, younger people. Things would have been new. But I think that it could not have happened back then because the technology wasn't there. We didn't have social media. We didn't have social media at all when I was like in high school or college. And we didn't have that technology. So the idea that I would have like a sex tape, I wouldn't have a sex tape at that time because people really didn't have sex tapes at that time. So again, what's going on now is that the things that existed when I was younger didn't exist on the level that they claim it did. But also the things that exist now didn't exist when I was younger. So that's part of the advantage of being 49. The other part of the advantage of being 49 is the type of men that I would have dated years ago weren't the type of men that exist now. And also the types of situations that I would have been in years ago they're not a big deal. Do you know what I'm talking about? So the types of things that they're trying to create, like the doubt, they tried to say that, again, I have a chip in my behind. I don't have a chip in my ass. They tried to say that certain things existed years ago. It couldn't have existed years ago because it barely exists now. So that's part of the advantage of all of this. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I will continue to post videos as things occur to me and tell you things that they're talking about. But it's starting to proved to me and I hope to you that these people are very manipulative. They'll manipulate each and every situation to their advantage, whether I tell you or not. So I feel that it's safer for me to just tell you the situation. Again, I want comments. Leave a comment. If you know me, leave a comment. I'm not doing this secretly. I'm doing this in public. Thanks for watching. I'll upload more videos soon.